Hello, everybody. This is Mike-Klis, and you are on Klis's Mike Drop. Another edition that we have here during the off season, kind of in between the free agent period, at least the first wave, the second wave. I think this week it's been kind of the third wave. You've been seeing these guys signing for, the minimum. Still some good free agents out there. I think the Broncos will probably pick up, a veteran role player here and there, maybe a receiver, maybe a running back, but again, a role player type. You could always use some depth up front. And then you got the owners meetings coming up next week in West Palm Beach, Florida. We'll have a chance to talk to Sean Payton, George Payton, and the owner, Greg Penner, Kerry Penner. So pay attention to that. And then the draft. You get ready for the draft. That's April 24th, 25th, 26th. The Broncos have the number 20 pick, and they got to take a running back, don't they? I think they got to take a running back no later than number 51 in the second round. And if you look at some of the visits, it's been kind of interesting who the Broncos have had in for top 30 visits. You can bring in 30, draftable prospects into your headquarters, and a lot of them, I would say 15 to 18 of them, are kind of like recruiting the undrafted free agents. There's a real good, there's 7 rounds, and then there's some good players that go undrafted that make it in the NFL. The Broncos, 1 or 2 make it their roster every year as a rookie. And this is when you try to recruit them. You bring them into the building, you give them a nice lunch, you visit with them with all the coaches, meet all the staff, and so it's kind of like a recruiting trip. So when they're undrafted, the Broncos can pick up the phone and say, hey, why don't you come play with us? And that helps a lot. But one guy that's going to be drafted and could be drafted at number 20, Quinshon Judkins, the running back from Ohio State. His freshman year at Ole Miss, rushes for almost 1,600 yards, 16 touchdowns. That's in 2022. And then last year, he transfers to Ohio State. He winds up splitting time with Trayvon Henderson. Still has over 1,000-yard season. Both of them did. And the Buckeyes win the national championship. So he's definitely a candidate for number 20. So is DJ Giddens. Giddens, I was hearing more of a second rounder on him. But, the Broncos at number 51, they like him. The last 2 years at Kansas State, he rushed for 1,200 and 1,300 yards, 29 catches, 21 catches. I think you would like some versatility there. 2 other guys that the Broncos brought in on visits. Cam Miller, the quarterback from North Dakota State. Saw him a couple of years ago against Colorado, I think. That's a possibility of maybe an undrafted late-round guy. And then you have Gunnar Helm, the tight end, who had a rough combine because of that sprained ankle he suffered while taking off on his 40-yard meter dash. Still gutted through it, didn't tell anybody. Ran the 40, very slow times. 4.84 was his 40. Didn't have that sudden quickness in some of the drills, although he did show off his good hands. Other news for the Broncos this week, Jeff Schmedding is their new inside linebackers coach. He replaces Michael Wilhoit. Wilhoit was the outside linebackers coach the last 2 years, but they're moving him inside this year to replace Greg Minuski, who was fired at the end of the season. Isaac Shoemaker, he was a quality control coach. He moves up to outside linebacker. And so Schmedding, who was a defensive coordinator at some big-time college programs, Washington State, Auburn, Boise State. So he's the Broncos' new inside linebackers coach. So Sean Payton not afraid to develop some of these younger college coaches into the pro ranks. Broncos also got themselves a punter. Matt Hawk is his name, represented by Paul Sheehy, who lives right here in Littleton. Hawk had some pretty good experience early in his career. Hadn't punted much the last couple of years, but he was with Darren Rizzi with the Miami Dolphins in 2018 and 19, I do believe. And so Darren Rizzi, the new special teams coordinator, didn't have a punter for a while there. When Riley Dixon got away, Broncos went after Brian Anger. They didn't get him. And so Matt Hawk, who has been with Rizzi before, is now with the Broncos. And then we thought we'd have a little fun with you here on Klis's Mike Drop, going back to some of the exclusive one-on-one interviews that I did with Sean Payton the last couple of years for the Broncos Huddle. You might have seen him on the Broncos Huddle the last couple of years. And we go back to when very first interview with Sean Payton. And that was why he took some time off. And he had a very interesting answer on why he took that year off between the New Orleans Saints, where he was a coach for 15 years, and his first year with the Broncos prior to 2023. Last year, for a different reason, you took a year off.
Yeah.
Why?
I think the term burnout, or you're tired, or it takes so much of you. You start thinking about your own health, your own mortality, and honestly, I didn't see my whole career being at one NFL team. And look, no coach has ever won a Super Bowl with two different teams. You know, here we are, 2023, it's never happened. So I like those kind of things, those challenges.
Yeah, you heard Sean Payton. He wants to become the first coach in NFL history to win a Super Bowl with two different teams. There's been a lot of coaches who have gone to the Super Bowl with two different teams. I know Mike Holmgren's one of them, but you know, no one's won it for two different teams. So that's what Sean Payton is going for right there. We also spoke to him at the his very first coaches breakfast in Phoenix in 2023. This was right after he got hired. And we asked him about the expectations he had then. And pay attention to the expectations he had going into the job just 2 years ago and what the expectations are for the Broncos now as they go into 2025. What should the expectations for your team? What do you have?
It's March. I mean, I haven't met the team. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we're not going to make predictions about, you know, we're going to go to work and get ready. We haven't had our first OTA yet. Mm-hmm.
You know, this past year, we talked toward the end of the season, we talked to Sean Payton about, you know, the whole process. We kind of look back at the process of when he found Bo Nix. And it was interesting how he went about it. At the Combine, he says, we think we're going to be real good at this, and we don't think others are. And we're glad that others won't be, which is a little bravado. One thing Sean Payton does that he brings to the team, and I think it's been evident of these Broncos, they haven't always been the most talented team. And in fact, in 2023, rarely were they the most talented team. But they won some games against teams they had lesser talent, especially during that 5-game winning streak. Kansas City Chiefs, Green Bay Packers, Buffalo Bills. During that stretch, they had some bravado. And I think that carried, there was a toughness to them. There was a belief, a faith that they could win anyway. And that carried over this year. But he did have some bravado and knew he was going to find a quarterback. Didn't know it was Bo Nix at the time. But right now, I think it's safe to say that the Broncos have found their quarterback, and Sean Payton found his quarterback in Bo Nix. Go back to the Combine, and this has come up a lot with the way Bo's played, but you finished your press conference saying, we think we're going to be really good at this, meaning finding a quarterback.
Yeah.
And we're glad that other people aren't necessarily very good at it. Well, that was bold that you put yourself out there.
No, I just think it's a hard position to evaluate.
Yeah.
And look, 15 years ago, you had a couple draft books.
Yeah.
And then you relied on your scouting department. And there were some real talented people that covered the draft. And then it expanded and it expanded and it expanded. And now I call it the NFL train. No one knows who's driving it, but it's a train full of these consensus opinions that can move. And it's hard for the scout, the GM, the head coach, the coaches that are evaluating. It's hard to tune out that noise because you have the internet and the TV and all. And so I think what's really important is that room where it's quiet and dark and film in your eyes and the measurements, and I think that position, specifically that position, has been more challenging to evaluate. And then when you put and place the premium on it, your bigger mistakes sometimes are made with that position.
And finally, we talked to Sean Payton. You know, there was a stretch there at one point in the season where people were really second guessing Sean Payton's play calling ability. And, you know, I got to thinking about it, you know, and I do think there's some times where, you know, he calls one too many screen passes. That's for sure. That drives you nuts when it's, you know, a call for a screen and it's 2nd and 15. But here's the deal with Sean Payton. He's been a head coach for 17 seasons now. 13 of those 17 seasons, his team was in the top 10 in total offense, which is yards per game. 13 other times, he was in the top 10 in scoring offense, including this past year with the Broncos. And there's some number 1 rankings, number 2 rankings in there too. Multiple number 1, number 2 rankings in points. And yet, everybody thinks they can call the game better than Sean Payton. Here's what he had to say about that. Coach, you have 9 top 5 offenses and scoring point offenses, right? Not top 10 in your career, but 9 top 5. And yet everyone in town thinks they're a better play caller here this week. How do you cope with that type of stuff when there's all that noise?
Well, first off, and I get it, we have passionate fans, and that's part of the deal. I don't hear it just because we're busy working, but nonetheless, I appreciate it. I think, look, we're in a production business. We're working our tails off to improve, and we will. And I think the key is, you know, look, there's some specific things, like for instance, 3rd down that we've got to be better at. But look, the noise is always loudest, obviously, if you're either winning or losing. Yeah. And so we still have to get on to the next game and focus on this next one.
All right, everybody, that'll do it for this edition of Klis's Mic Drop. Hope you enjoyed it. Kind of in that dead zone, so to speak, between the end of free agency and getting ready for the draft. Got a lot of scouting to do, the Broncos do, to hit on that number 20 pick. Looking forward to the owners' meetings, where Monday we'll be having the breakfast with Sean Payton and also talking with George Payton, the Broncos general manager, and Greg Penner, the Broncos CEO and owner. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll talk to you again next week.